Hi everyone, and welcome to another grammar nibble. In this lesson, we are talking about the past passive. The past passive, much like the present simple passive, is used when the doer of an action is either unknown or unimportant. Basically, what we're doing is we're switching the subject and the object of a sentence, and when we do that, we also have to switch the verb. Okay, you've got this up here, and that's just a reiteration, which is to say again, of what I just said. And then the activity down here has a police report, and we're asked to select subjects that do something, verbs that follow those subjects, was, were, plus the past participle, and phrases with by. A police report is an excellent example of when to use the passive because you often don't know who did the actions. If you did, you probably wouldn't need a police report. You would need an arrest report maybe. So let's go ahead and get started. Subjects that do something. And now to do something can also mean to be something. These ones that I have just selected are very simple examples of normal sentences. And another word for normal sentences is the active voice, because it sounds like something is active. But now we're going to get into something that is, and we're going to get into the passive. Okay? And so we're looking for was, were. Was smashed. Was opened. Now, if you look at this, he climbed. That's an active sentence, okay? Because it's very clear about who is doing the action and the action. Okay, the main door was open. One way to check to see if the passive is needed or is being used is to ask, questions. So we've got the door here. Obviously, that's the door was open. Did the door do the opening? No, of course not. Someone else opened the door. But since we don't know who it was, we use the passive voice. And you should be noticing a pattern here. If I could actually click that, there we go. Was shut down, were cut. And then the last thing is the phrase by. And that is when we want to tell, that is when the doer of the action might be known, but is less important than the action. So let's take a quick break while we finish this off. Okay, so there we see a mix of passive and active sentences. So let's look at the rules. You've got the rules down here. You'll need to take a second to look over those. And then here we've just got some rules. How many verbs do we need? Well, we usually need two. Was plus the past participle. Was or were. Okay, and the main verb in the past participle form. If the main verb is a regular verb, it will end in ed. If the main verb is an irregular verb, we need to identify the correct form. Now, looking at using by, in a passive sentence, the subject or agent is often introduced with the preposition by. Okay? The car was repaired by the mechanic. Now, why would we say that? Why not just say, the mechanic repaired the car? And this is what we're talking about when we say that the doer of the action is less important than the object. So in this sentence would most likely be found in a paragraph about the car. The car is the focus, right? Not the mechanic. So even though he does the action, we want to keep the focus on the car. And that's the central idea behind the passive voice. Regardless of whether it's in the past tense, the present tense, the future perfect tense, any tense, The passive keeps the focus on the object, or on what, it takes the focus off of the person or thing that does the action. Okay? And then down here, we've got this. So we're looking for the present simple passive, the present continuous passive, and the future passive. Okay? Here's our present continuous passive. It is being investigated by, okay? Again, the robbery is the focus of the sentence, not the police. And the present simple, there we go. Both agencies can be called with information and will be treated confidentially. That is the future passive. Now, those are things for another lesson, but remember, regardless of the tense that you use, the idea behind the passive stays the same. Now, go practice and don't forget to try to include this in your writing and speaking.